Hello and welcome to Putting the C in DMAIC, improving your Six Sigma consultancy. My name is Michelle Martz Mayfield and I'm the PR and Corporate Communications Manager for TrackVia. I'm going to start us off here with a little bit of housekeeping. You are entered in on listen only mode. Please keep it in listen only mode while you're watching the webinar so everyone can hear, please. If you have questions, please submit them via our chat window. We're happy to answer them after the presentation. And those that we don't get to, we will follow up in an email. We are also recording this webinar and we'll send you up a follow-up email with that recording within 48 hours. That takes care of our housekeeping. Today, our presenters include Matt Kroll. He's the founder and president of Chalmers Street Consulting. Sorry about that. We have Matt Hubbard. He is the Operational Excellence Practice Manager here at TrackVia. And we also have Roger Moffett. He's the Director of Channel Sales at TrackVia. Today's topics will include process control, citizen development, and the TrackVia Partner Program. With that, I will turn it over to Matt Kroll. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Michelle. So, hello, thank you for joining. My name is Matt Kroll. I'm president of Chalmers Street Consulting. We work with companies that are looking to improve their operations, looking to overcome obstacles to growth, and we do that by looking at process improvement. And that's why I'm on the webinar talking to you today. Is starting with a story. I started my career as an industrial engineer at Motorola in 1999, and I worked at a repair, one of our repair depots, and we'd get thousands of radios in every day, and we'd have to log them into a system. And at that time, we had an older kind of AS400, if you don't know what that means, like a command-based green screen system. It took our operators quite a long time to understand what commands to use, and it was kind of a challenge using the system. So, one of the things that we did as that system became outdated was we moved to a more modern, for the time, system with a GUI interface and all those things. And the difference was that original system, the older system, was really built in-house. It was designed around our process. The new system was an off-the-shelf system, right? And it came with a lot of bells and whistles that were useful. But of course, and maybe many of you have experienced this over the years, it did things we didn't need, and it didn't always fit our process. And that's a big part of this story that I want to tell as I go through my presentation today. Is we've struggled over the years with, do you design the tool for the process, or you get the process to fit the tool? And, with most of what we've done in technology over the years, a lot of it has been trying to get that process to fit the tool. And so in this case, in our login software case, it gave us some improvements, but it forced our operators to have to learn some new terms that they weren't familiar with, and we had to do some silly things like put use the second address line for phone number because the software didn't have a second address line, and so that's really the challenge. What I want to ask you now, if we could flip to the poll, is in your experience working either with an organization or at your organization itself, how long does it take to get an IT project through from start to finish? Is it less than a month? Is it 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, more than 6 months, or basically forever? If you could just give your thoughts on that, I'd like to see what your experiences are. And I'll give it just a minute here. I don't know if this will update for us. Okay. Well, I don't want to take too long on the poll here. I'm not sure if it's clear where to click to respond. So let's keep moving. So you go to the next slide, please. There we go. Before we get too deep, now, you all joined a webinar called Putting the C in DMAIC, so I'm sure most of you do know what DMAIC is, but just in case, I'll highlight a couple things here. So for those of us that do a lot of process improvement, we're very familiar with DMAIC. It means define, measure, analyze, improve, control. It came about kind of late 90s. With the purpose of helping us focus on the front end of problem solving, meaning oftentimes we focus on the solution, what is the improvement, and we don't think enough about the problem. And the whole idea of define, measure, and analyze is to really take a scientific method approach to our problems, study them deeply, understand them deeply before we start solving, right? There's always a desire to jump right to the improve, and oftentimes we're solving the wrong problem when we jump right to the improve. Equally important, though, is that last piece, that control performance piece. Also, what happens too often is we put an improvement in place and we don't get that improvement to stick. It doesn't sustain. And so the control phase of DMAIC is really about how do we keep this thing in place and lock in standard work. And so I've been teaching this for quite a long time. Your control phase is a little bit unloved, honestly. By the time you get through teaching everybody how to define, measure, and analyze, and you get to control, right? You say, well, you're going to put together a new SOP, you're going to do some training, so on and so forth. And control is a bit unloved. And so that's what this is really about, is how do we get more teeth into the control phase? And if you could go to the next slide. And that's the problem. We put together great solutions. They're not standardized, they're not followed. We do our best, right? We put together paper forms, Excel forms. We look for ways to do it. And ideally, in a perfect world, we'd go to our ERP and we would maybe add a module or add some fields or information that can help us control the workflow, right? We'd work through IT. The reality or the challenge is, though, taking all those informal and uncontrolled processes and trying to get them onto the IT agenda is difficult, right? IT departments are typically overloaded with demands from all the continuous improvement people, the business, the operations, right? We need this, compelling customer issues that need to go get resolved via some technology. And so, feel some compassion for your IT departments, because they've got 150 some things, maybe 500 some things, and every year they're going through this prioritization process so that they can push through their constrained channel a few of the most important technology changes. Maybe they get 5 to 10 at the end, and that could be maybe a whole nother webinar. But what happens is we end up with customers that are suffering because some of those processes, those paper and Excel form processes, they're as critical as the financials that are in the ERP in terms of delivering on business results, delivering to our customers. And so that doesn't happen, and our employees are frustrated, and we're not delivering on the purpose of continuous improvement. And so that's the problem. That's a challenge really to solve as I think about process improvement and what we have to go and achieve as process improvement experts. If you go to the next slide. So there's really been 3 ways to attack that problem in the past, or at least that I've experienced. Oftentimes it's a be patient. So we have some solution that we want to push through our technology team. We want to buy a new software, maybe to manage contracts or something along those lines. So we put together requirements and we get it in queue, and they say, oh, 6 months. And then it gets about 3 months in, and they say, you know what, you might actually be on the 9 or 12-month track. And then, of course, it becomes 18, 24, or never months. And anyone that's been burned by that, right? We tend to go, I'm not going to go the IT route. Let me go see if there's something out there, right? An off-the-shelf product that we can go purchase that's going to resolve this process problem. The challenge, of course, not so different from that challenge I was illustrating with the story, is yes, someone's fixed that problem before, but is it fixed in a way that fits our culture, that fits the terminology of what our company utilizes? We'll always get a yes from the salesperson, right? It's always going to be, yep, it's going to do that. But oftentimes it's at the cost of customization. So now that that simple software, off-the-shelf software tool becomes really expensive, and we realize that it may not have been as a great idea as we thought to try and get around the IT department. And so that approach comes with challenges as well. And then the last one, and I have to admit here, so I was a master black belt at a couple different companies for quite a long time, certifying green belts and black belts and mentoring them and so on. And my advice was usually along the lines of, when you get to your solutions, prioritize those solutions that don't involve technology, right? I would say focus on things that you can directly go get done, because you're going to be waiting 12 months to get that technology solution in place, and we want to show some impact now, right? And you want to get certified, so you want to show some impact now. Frankly, not great advice. Honestly, all of these paths are inept. They're not helping us get to that control that really realizes the gain from our process improvement and sustains it over time. And so what I'm here to talk about a bit is we've got new options, right? So technology has offered up some methods that now combine that need for fitting my process fitting the tool solution to the process, with the ability to kind of work around that constrained capacity of our IT department. And that is low-code platforms, which we're talking about today, and along with citizen developers, which Matt will talk a little bit more about. But those solutions are really getting around these inept approaches that we've been dealing with. I've personally been dealing with for 20 years. Could we go to the next slide, please? So this is a better approach. So those low-code tools, if you're not familiar, they're de-skilling the software development process, right? So if we think about the challenge of software development, it's I have to know how to code, and it's a meticulous activity that's very time consuming. And so when we say democratize the IT application development process, we mean simplify it, bring it to a simpler state that more people can access. In fact, when I was at Motorola in the 2000s, we developed something called Digital Six Sigma. And the concept of Digital Six Sigma was every Six Sigma project was going to end in some sort of digitization of the process. Brilliant, honestly, right? And that's what actually we should all be driving for, and my consulting firm is driving for now. The challenge at the time was the challenge that I keep talking about. Yes, we came up with our digitizations, but there was no capacity to go do this because there weren't enough people that understood how to code enough that we could go build the tools that we need, right? So we say democratize IT, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about leaving the digital solution in place when we're done with the project, so that we stick and sustain. And so it's not necessarily a new idea, but the technology has finally come along to a place where we can start to actually work that way. Now, I see this as empowering the process engineer. The reality is, and I believe in practice, there's plenty of different people that are utilizing these low-code tools. For me, that's what I hire process engineers. That's what we do. It makes the most sense. And I look at process engineers as having the broadest view of the organization and the operations, such that they can help us pinpoint where a low-code solution is going to have the largest impact, right? And so the idea here is we deliver improvements at a higher rate, unconstrained by IT. We're sustaining and locking in our improvements through workflows, and we're really succeeding in controlling the process. We can go to the next slide. So this is a better approach because the tool is designed locally. If you think again to that story I told earlier, the challenge too often is, especially if we look at off-the-shelf software solutions, the terminology that they're using is global, right? It's set up to fit a whole bunch of different companies that are out there. And the reality is, if we really believe our company or our client's company has a unique offering in the marketplace, it's because there's something unique about it, and we don't want to, we don't want to commoditize that by purchasing a software that doesn't really create the process or allow us to create the processes that enhance those unique market values. And so when we create local solutions, right, they fit the process. So no more tool before process. It's now process before tool. Additionally, we know, or I certainly know, and I'm sure many of you know, when someone comes up with a solution, or we come up with a solution at a Kaizen event, we're not necessarily exactly sure what we need, certainly when we get down to a technology requirements document. And so iteration is absolutely important in the solution deployment, the solution adoption process, right? We have to go in little chunks, right? And so rapid development tools like low-code allow us to do that sort of thing. And then adoption. I remember at Motorola when we deployed Salesforce.com. And if you think of salespeople, right, they're not necessarily all going to follow the same process. And we had a lot of conversations around, yeah, but you know what, the tool only works in one way. And so adoption is really hard when you go in and change a process. And so now what we're doing when we apply low code with our clients is we're fixing chunks. Like, we're not going to go and put a complete enterprise software out there. We're going to go fix chunks of the process, those things that are most painful, where people are going to be most open to adopting a standard. So then we start to get over that hump of, yeah, but I want to do it my way, right? And so once you start breaking down the, yeah, I want to do it my way through that iterative sort of development, you get through that change management process much more quickly. And so that's powerful. And then, finally, we implemented a contract management process for one of our clients, and the manager of that department, process owner, also owns the tool, right? So he's responsible for updates and enhancements, giving people permission, right? And we haven't separated that role, right? The person who's closest to the process is owning the tool, and there's no pointing fingers between IT and the business, right? It's all in one place. So this is why this is a much better approach. You go to the next slide. So it's exciting. My team, we're having fun with it. We're having fun building these tools. What you need to recognize and be ready for is that, again, have some empathy for your IT organization. They're overloaded. They're trying to figure out how to deal with the increasing security threats that are out there. And they may not be as excited as you are when you come and say, hey, I've got this new platform that we need to go and start having everybody use. You need to think about how you make this a benefit, and it is, make this a benefit to your IT department. You have to think about the kind of questions that they're going to ask. How will this be supported, right? What are the new pools of data that we're creating? So this contract management tool that we created, the client now has itemized information about what's on the contracts that they didn't have before. It's fantastic. Everybody wants some of that. but it's somewhere else. And so now we have to talk about, well, okay, how do we connect it with all the data that's in the ERP? And the reality is that information actually exists before, but it was, like many of you probably have, was on Excel files on people's hard drives all over the place. But going through this and utilizing tools and building digitized solutions this way is going to make more visible the fact that there's a lot of little data pools out there, and we're going to want to connect them all together. The companies want to have control of those things, right? You're going to have to think about the concerns over security. And if you've got citizen developers out there, and I'll let Matt talk more about this, right? There's guidelines and standards that they should follow just as anybody in the IT organization should follow. So really be ready. Like, this isn't going to necessarily be, hey, let's just go do it. You're going to have a plan working with your IT department to be successful. If we go to the next slide, please. So my company, we've been doing this for a while. We definitely recognize it's important to start small. We've got process engineers that know how to build these tools. We're able to do whiteboard sessions. We can help you get started if this is something that you see yourself as wanting to do within your consulting firm or within your company. Like, we can help you get started down this path and start learning and seeing the benefits. A key is selecting a local platform. We use TrackVia. One of our team members has 10 years of experience with TrackVia. TrackVia has been doing this a while. They know how to provide the functionality in a tool that makes it at a skill level that process engineers can utilize it. So that's really our thinking on that, and that's why we're partners with them. And then think about that IT department piece. Build that citizen IT playbook, and I'll let Matt talk a little bit more about that. Those things need to be considered if you're doing it for your company, or if you're like me and you're looking at doing it for your clients. So thank you very much, and I'll let Matt talk a little bit more about the citizen IT side of things.
All right, thank you, Matt, and hello everybody. And Matt, I just want to say this: I'm a self-professed nerd in this space, and I get really excited about process improvement, and especially using low code, because it is a game changer. There were many times where you were talking, I resonated with your story, and I felt like I was in church, and I almost wanted to give a shout out or an amen because of the excitement. But anyway, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Matt Hubbard. I'm manager of operational excellence at TrackVia. Matt Kroll introduced low code and citizen IT. Another term for that is citizen development. It was introduced as a means for improvement professionals to digitize processes. Now, I'll be covering citizen development in a little more depth, but let me first provide some personal background to set the stage. So I joined TrackVia only a few months ago in January, but I've been using TrackVia as a customer and consultant for 10 years. And frankly, it's been a godsend. To steal somebody else's phrase, low code has become my superpower. Prior to learning about TrackVia, I worked at Honda Manufacturing for 14 years, where I led process improvement for their North American purchasing division. And much like Matt's stories, it was both rewarding and frustrating. It was rewarding because we were able to identify millions of dollars of process waste, but frustrating because we couldn't get systems built to eliminate that waste. The systems were expensive, slow, inflexible, and frankly, there just weren't enough coders in IT to go around. So we used what we had: procedures, training, audits, spreadsheets, email, retraining, and it was an incredible manual effort to achieve what I would say are mediocre results at best. I wanted to do better. So in 2010, so that was over a decade ago now, I started working for a truck manufacturer, where I saw the same process waste and the same challenges with system development as I experienced with my time at Honda. System development was expensive, slow, inflexible, and again, shortage of IT coders. But this time things were a little bit different because low code was becoming a thing, and I was encouraged to try out TrackVia as an alternative to traditional system development. And so I tried it out, and excuse me, it was everything I hoped it would be. It was affordable, it was fast, flexible, and most important, it was usable by people like me who are process improvement professionals, but I don't know how to code. So it turned me into this new term, a citizen developer. I was eliminating waste for multiple processes per year by making my own apps. I had a smile on my face, and so did the company. Instead of frustrated faces, I was regularly met with comments like, "That was great. What can we do next?" We eventually trained 7 more citizen developers and established a forum to share best practices. We didn't have words for it at the time since it was over a decade ago, but what we were forming was a citizen development program, and it was empowering, effective, and quickly produced scale for our improvement efforts. Now, that journey was not without problems. We had no precedence for a citizen development program, and so we kind of figured it out as we went. But fast forward a decade, today, I'm working for TrackVia, and what we're working on, we have efforts underway to standardize a framework for citizen development so that our customers and consulting partners can safely and effectively scale their digitization efforts to complement their process improvements. Okay, so let's dive into citizen development. I'm going to cover what citizen development is, key elements for success, and TrackVia's commitment to citizen development. So let's start with this first slide. What I've done here is I've taken a stab at defining what citizen development is. It's got a lot packed into such a small term. So let me just kind of walk through this definition, and then I'll dive into a couple of the elements. First, it's a sanctioned program that enables anyone to solve problems by assembling their own apps using a low-code platform. And this is a little bit of an idealist vision. Like, this would be my ideal state vision for what citizen development is. I want to empower every employee, the entire workforce, to make their company better every day using process improvement and low code. Let me lean a little bit on the sanction part. Matt kind of mentioned this. You want to be a partner with IT. This needs to be sanctioned by IT, meaning that IT endorses it and they even promote it. We don't want to operate in the shadows. Instead, we want to be partners who expedite innovation, but in a safe and reliable manner. The second piece I want to dive in on is this word anyone. Again, that's an, excuse me, it's an idealist statement. Someday, I would love for everyone in a company to be able to solve their own problems with low code, because that's just the way we work. I think we're headed in that direction. In the meantime, maybe a more realistic step in that direction is to get maybe one admin at every company who can develop their own as a citizen developer. From there, maybe it spawns into an admin per department. And then someday, maybe it reaches this ideal state vision. And I'll share my former business partner. He had a vision. I called it as "I have a dream" speech in the realm of citizen development. And it was that when new employees show up to a company, they're given their laptop, their login to their Microsoft suite of productivity tools, and their login to their low-code platform. And then they are encouraged from day one to help solve problems and make the company better every day. Let's go to the next slide, please. As I've been thinking about what are the key elements for success with citizen development, I've kind of landed on this people, process, technology triad. I'm sure most of you have heard of this. And what I believe is that all 3 of these elements, people, process, and technology, need to be harmonized together to achieve a lasting result. If you are missing one of these pieces, your results may struggle. And so this applies to citizen development as well. We want the technology piece. That is the low-code platform. That is what TrackVia is anchored on. We provide a low-code platform that is very easy for non-professional developers to learn, and it has a runway of functionality that allows you to grow into some more advanced features when you're ready for that. It's also secure, compliant, and integrated. Okay, so that's the first piece that we need. But a low-code platform sitting on a shelf without people to use it is useless, right? So we need people to use it. Those are the citizen developers. And from my experience, there are a lot of people who cannot code, but are chomping at the bit to develop solutions for their process improvements. And so we want to identify those people in the organization, but we also want to support them. We want to train them and equip them so that they can develop effective apps and continuously improve. Now, the third piece that I want to talk about is the process piece. This is the piece that, from my view, it has been missing from the triad. We have had low-code technology for quite some time. I told you I've been using it for a decade. We have plenty of people on the front lines wanting to improve their processes, and they do so with Excel. They make macros, and they just try to work with what they have. Okay, but what we don't have is a standard process framework to make these efforts successful. As you know, process is important to control the environment and to control the results, right? So without process, we can have chaos. Without process, technically, anyone can use a low-code platform and start developing solutions. But if people are doing that without consistency, you can end up with a hazardous situation where maybe you're doing things that aren't compliant. Maybe you are introducing risk to the organization, or maybe you're just not moving very far. You're struggling to scale because you're not operating within a framework that fits with the company. So this is where I'm focused right now, is getting a citizen development program or framework in place to complete the people, process, and technology triad. If you would go to the next slide, please. So I started putting together my own framework because I understood that it was missing. But while I was putting it together, I encountered the Project Management Institute's efforts in this space. So many of you might be familiar with PMI. Excuse me. PMI stands for Project Management Institute. They are involved with creating standards so that we can have a common language and proceed with continuous improvement in the space of project management. Many of you have probably heard of the PMP certifications, Project Management Professionals. PMI, I think, took project management, created an industry out of it, and it launched it into the stratosphere, and it made us better across the board. What PMI is doing now is they're seeing an evolution of project management. They're seeing technology and project management fitting very well together, and they're seeing citizen development being part of that equation. And so what they did is they first wanted to confirm, is citizen development just a passing fad, or is it here to stay? And they did a study. They went out to multiple organizations, talked to practitioners, consultants, institutions, and basically what they validated is, no, this is a real thing because of low code. But what we're seeing is a lot of dabbling. We're seeing a lot of one-off success, and we haven't seen very many examples of large-scale efforts of citizen development programs across companies. And so their belief is that this lack of this process element or a standard framework for operating under citizen development is what's missing. And so they took a year to develop a framework, and they have recently released the first technology agnostic framework for citizen development. They are all in on this because they believe this is the future. And so I've been spending some time talking with PMI, trying to understand their framework, and I believe that it aligns with TrackVia's view of citizen development, and so we are working very closely to partner with PMI moving forward. So on the right here, you can see the citizen development canvas. This is like the summary of the entire framework. I know that it's small and I'm not going to go to detail on it. I think the most important thing that I want to illustrate is the maturity model at the bottom of that CD canvas. I like it a lot because it accepts that people can't just flip a switch. You can't just say, today I don't have a citizen development effort and tomorrow it's running at full scale. That's not how it works. We have to go through a journey. You have to start out in the discovery phase. And in that phase, you're proving to yourself that citizen development works, that a non-professional coder can make an application to control their process and then continuously improve it. Once you've done that in the discovery mode, you got to move on to experimentation. You got to make sure that it wasn't just a fluke. You know, was I just the right person that happened to do that in the discovery phase? Was it the right project that I chose that made it successful? Now go out there and try a few more use cases. Try it with more people and validate that it is repeatable. That's the experimentation phase. Once you validate that it's repeatable, you can then confidently say, hey, I would like to scale this across my organization. I would like to start moving towards that ideal state of empowering all of my employees to solve problems with technology. And so in that third phase, the adoption phase, this is where you're getting your C-suite and your executive sponsors to formally endorse such a movement. And then you start putting in your operating model, your framework, your structure. Are you going to operate out of a center of excellence, or are you going to operate within the departments? That will all be determined, but the point is you will put the structure in place. You will roll that out in the scaling phase until you've established a solid foundation. And then when you get into the last phase, which is innovating, that's when it gets really exciting because people have a common language. They're doing this regularly, and then they will innovate on levels you couldn't have even imagined or engineered. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the last bit that I will cover. This is TrackVia's commitment to citizen development. As a low-code platform, TrackVia has believed in citizen development before it was even a term. And we are all in on citizen development. And so what our commitment is we want to provide the technology and services that enable our customers and our partners to be successful with citizen development. So what that means is our technology or our low-code platform, we want to continuously assess to make sure that it is easy for people to pick up and gives a nice runway of functionality for them to continue to get into more advanced solutioning as they learn. We also want to provide features that complement citizen development. Today, I think we have an incredible suite of features, but we're going to constantly evaluate that suite of features and assess if we need to be adding more to make citizen development successful. The last piece is the services side, and I think this aligns well with folks on the line who are running consulting services. So we want process improvement efforts, right? We all know we don't want to just automate a terrible process. First thing you want to do is improve the process, okay? Then we want to automate the process, and then we want to continuously improve. And so we want partners who want to help us connect with customers to improve processes and make sure that we're not just automating a bad process, okay? We also want to provide those services ourselves. Citizen development program. This is what I just introduced in that PMI's citizen development framework. We want to teach our customers how to safely scale a citizen development program. We also want to teach our partners how to do that so that they can implement at customers, but also so that they can teach customers how to do it themselves. And after all, isn't continuous improvement, especially in the lean philosophy, all about empowering those frontline people to self-serve? Training, help desk availability, 24/7 monitoring. Okay, we have that already. We have excellent online university training. We have in-person training, and we have help documentation. That's frankly how I learned TrackVia, was just from the help documentation. It's fantastic. It allows you to get started, but know that we also have people on this side who can help you through that path. The last bit is implementation and coaching. And of course, if we want to do a process improvement or build a solution for a customer, we want to offer many avenues for that. One is we have an implementation team on staff at TrackVia who can help build an application for the first time. Maybe we show you what success looks like by building that first application. And then we move into a coaching phase where we're like, why don't you take on the second initiative, and we'll be there to coach you. Eventually, you're able to do it by yourself. We want consulting partners who can do that. That will help to scale this up. So I think that is My last slide, what I want to pivot on is that partner program idea, and I will turn that over to Roger. Thank you.
And we'll come off of mute. There we go. Thanks, Matt. Matt squared, right? I love that. We've heard a lot of good things today. I appreciate everybody hanging with us. Some of you might be customers. Some of you might have consultancies. We have a mix on the call today or on the webinar. So just want to, what we didn't show you is anything product oriented. Just know that the product's there, and we're happy. We've got lots of webinars and things like that that can show you product. But just some ideas on examples. One of the reasons why citizen development works and why low code works is because it's quick, and if you can run a spreadsheet, chances are you can do it without you don't have to be a programmer. So I had some, as we were talking through, as the first Matt Kroll was talking through some of his examples, I was thinking of some of the ones we've run across in the past months that I've been here. I've been here even less than Matt Hubbard, but one example came into my mind was a mortgage company, a mortgage lending institution that they started out with needing help. They saw a problem of reducing how to reduce a turnaround time for a loan application to funding from 30 days to something shorter. That's a typical business type of problem, right? Matt, thank you, Matt Kroll, for nodding. And they were able to do that, and they needed help, and they wrote it out on paper and said, this is what we want to do. And so our professional services helped them do that, and help them write that application. Pretty soon, within a few months, they wrote several applications together to the point where the customer now had a couple of people internally that could write applications and understood the TrackVia platform. To this point, 3 years after that first one was written with or for them, they've written over 80 applications, and that has transformed the profitability of their business, one small project at a time, to the point where there's just all sorts of things that interconnect and make it a very solid business proposition. We had somebody who was very familiar with our product at an Air Force base at the beginning of COVID. They were using our product there on site to do a variety of scheduling things, and lo and behold, someone said, "Hey, now we have to do this tracking for COVID." Well, good. I've got access to all the employee records through this other application we wrote. 20 minutes later, he had it. They had their first iteration of the tracking application ready to push out, ready to be utilized and improved on. You don't get that anywhere else except in a low-code type environment, and that's what we're talking about. You've all been, and you see my slide here, you've all been, you've had that opportunity where you presented, your consultancy has gone in, you've worked with the customer, you've done the assessment, you've done the business requirements, you've shown the workflows, you've shown where you can tighten processes up and change them and make them better, and customers took it and they worked it. They took it to IT, they said, let's do this. And it worked, and everybody left very happy and feeling really good about that experience. You've also had that experience where you've delivered the big notebook of, here's several process improvements we recommend, and the customers paid you and you were thanked, and they never did anything with it. And that is very frustrating, and you feel, I just didn't deliver the right thing. And you probably did deliver the right thing. And if you went back to that customer 6 months later and looked at what they could do, it could still work, but they just need a different tool. They need a different way of putting that control into the process that you've already proposed. And so that's really kind of what this whole, you've shared with us the past hour or so, or past 40 minutes with us. That's really what this is all about, is how can we help your clients do more, right? How do we give you another arrow for your quiver? And to me, it's putting that C in DMAIC is all about putting a programming tool or putting something else into your quiver. So let's go ahead and go to the next screen. one of those things. I have, I run the partners at TrackVia. So we have, first thing we did is we created a partner program. I've got 25 plus years of experience in creating partner programs. So this was a good use here at TrackVia. It's a very flexible program. It works with whether you resell it, which I don't think I have anybody on the phone that would necessarily resell our platform, but certainly we have a lot of consultants on the phone, and we look at that and say there's ways for you to get the free training, get whether you want to, depends what you want to do with understanding the product, but certainly adding to what you have today is certainly a possibility. But the consultation, we want you to be a consultant first and foremost. That's your job as a business consultant. But adding something to it, and our program will help you with that. It will pay you if you want to be paid. It will connect you to other people who already have expertise, so that they can be part of that, what your proposal is to the customer. So there's all sorts of things you could do, but bottom line, we want you to improve client deliverables, and which increases your value to a client long term. Lastly, next steps, where do we go from here? Assess where you are. If you're a customer, is anything ringing true here? If you're a consultancy, what rings true and what do you want to take away from this? We want you to set, and I'm focusing on consultancies because that's kind of my job, right? But set a goal where you want to be. Outsource. Do you want to be do you want to recommend that part of the processes, you can outsource this process, you could outsource to have someone develop it. And then you plug into TrackVia, or you plug into someone in our ecosystem. Are you interested in developing an app for yourself, for the customer? I mean, as part of that, part of the deliverable. Here's your project plans. The beautiful thing is you've done 80% of the gathering of information that's necessary to go ahead and do a dev project, just by proposing and understanding the process and what you want to accomplish, and that's huge. And so a good part of that's already done. So yes, you could be a developer if you so desire. You could teach your citizen development to your customer. Maybe you start out being the developer. Maybe you teach them how to develop themselves in our citizen developer programs. So there's all sorts of things you can do, and everything in between. We have some partners who have developed their own application that was specific to an industry, specific to a customer, and they said, you know what, there's 10 other customers that need this, and they went out and sold it to other customers, so they became a developer. So we've got a lot of flexibility in what you can do here, but let us know, where do you want us to help you assess where you are, set where you want to be, and let us help you get there. And with that, we'll go ahead, and I was kind of curious. We did have that poll that didn't seem to work earlier, and I was curious, how long does it take? I'm going to ask the first question of you. How long does it take for an IT project to happen, right? And what's been your experience? And maybe this will work this time. I hope it does. We rebooted that part of the system, and we'll see. Going. Okay, Nicole, I don't know if that's going to work again right now. So let's move on to questions. We do have questions at work, and that's in the chat or the questions. We're monitoring both. If there's any questions you want to ask, we'll give that 1 minute for those to queue up. All righty. Well, then let's move on. One last thing. For those who are interested in, we can still ask questions, but want you to see contacts. If you're interested, no, go back to contacts. Hold on. There we go. There we go. We got you got Matt Kroll, and he was our first speaker. We have Matt Hubbard, who's all about citizen development. You've got me, who's helping your consultancy move forward. And there we go. Partners at TrackVia.com. If you have any questions that way. Matt, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I would just summarize by saying, you know, it's a this is a what did Matt said? This part of what makes you a superhero. Like for those of us that want to be the superhero for our clients, here's something that sets you apart. And so I think you know, do your research. This is something that'll be a growing trend, and I would definitely recommend being part of it.
Yeah, and I think I'm off mute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I think what I would add is, again, that this is a journey. Like we just shared a lot with you. If today is the first time you've heard low code as a term, if it's the first time you've heard citizen development, I could see this being like, I like the promise of what it offers, but that's a scary step to take. This is what partnering with us looks like. You know, I've been there. Matt Kroll has been there. We've got several people at TrackVia who have been there. We would like to help you take those steps forward. So I love what Matt had on his slide. Think big, start small, scale fast. It's okay to start small. It's okay if you've never done this before to just reach out and ask us, hey, could you kind of show me a little bit more about what it looks like to build an app? And then maybe I've got this opportunity with a customer. I don't want to build the app myself because I've never done that. Well, Matt Kroll can do that. We've got folks at TrackVia who can do that. We're happy to do that. And then we're happy to create a path with you that will help you to become self-sustainable. Yeah, I think that's the message I would leave. Don't feel daunted by the whole thing. The important part to move forward is to take that first step, and we want to help you do that.
And that's it. Thank you all very much for attending.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.